Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. It is Wednesday evening, December 14th, a little after almost 9:30 p.m. Thanks a lot, Puppet. Almost 9:30 p.m. And this is our Under the Radar podcast. I'm your host,
Woohoo!
Chad Sherwood. The puppets below me, David
I,
Griggs.
I I am. I'm below you.
Mm,
I should be above you.
To his side is John
Should be above
Slika. To
everyone.
my side up here, David Dorman.
Why am I not up there with you?
Why don't you just tell me what the heck Under the Radar means? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, it's essentially, in layman's terms, the 22 regular one bid leagues. We always feel important to say that there's no rule that says those are one bid leagues, but they're typically not the multi bid leagues. So that's not the Power Five, the Big 12, Big 10, Big 12, Big 10, Pac 12, ACC, and SEC, nor is it the five other regular multi bid leagues, the Big East, the A10, although not this year, the Mountain West, the West Coast, and the American. It's the other 22.
Okay, so it's everybody that's not in one of those leagues you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is another
Plus our
disqualifier. Yeah, go
Plus
ahead.
our independent Chicago State and Hartford.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think is Chad frozen.
No, I'm
No.
here.
Okay, well,
I was waiting. You were going out with another disqualifier. You never told
Oh,
us what it was. The audience
if you're
is
ranked in the
riveted trying to find out what the disqualifier is.
Oh, okay. Well, the disqualifier is if you're ranked in the top 25.
Okay. Well, thank you. People need to know these things.
Yeah. All right.
This show has started awful so far.
This
so
is the worst beginning ever. We should start over. We won't, but we should.
For that reason, let's just keep going. Anyhow, what we do is we go through these 22 conferences in alphabetical order, other than our feature conference of the night. So I have selected a feature conference that I think the last several weeks I've said this conference should have been our feature conference, but I found one reason or another not to do it. I think this week we finally have to do it because the conference is off to a great start and includes the one team that may not be under the radar much longer. Of course, I'm talking about the Colonial and the College of Charleston Cougars up there at the top of it, with a win over Stetson tonight by 5 points. But Dorman, let me start with you on this College of Charleston team, because this team has been very impressive so far. Even tonight because it's not that bad of a Stetson team.
No, they handled Stetson, but this College of Charleston team, if I had a ballot.
I just said pull them up. Go ahead, keep going. Dude.
Oh, I thought you said hold on.
I thought you said hold on. No problem.
Pull them up. God, we stink. Watch another show. Everybody just turn off the show and watch something else.
Charleston's off to a great start. I would have had him in my ballot in the low 20s literally 3 weeks ago. A fantastic start. That Virginia Tech win is going to look better and better as this season goes on, as I think they're one of the most underrated teams in the country. But this is about Charleston, and they are off to a fantastic start. Kent State, one of the best under-the-radar teams also in the country, knocked off Richmond and Colorado State. The one thing I will say is I don't want to say that this is their conference because I'm really a believer in this Towson team. I think Towson is in for a fantastic season. I would love for them both to get in. I don't think they will, but this is going to be a fantastic battle all year long.
Yeah, I really like this Towson team, and I think this game New Year's Eve is hugely important for College of Charleston's tournament chances, because while they have the notable wins, at least against notable opponents, the one thing that you have to realize is that those were home games. Yeah, it was a multi-team event, but it was on their home floor. They did the management. It goes into every metric. The committee is going to treat those like home wins. You need wins away from home if you want to get inside the bubble. And Towson, Wilmington, another good team this year. So both of those road games are kind of crucial, wouldn't you say, for College of Charleston in terms of possibly landing inside the bubble?
Enormous. I couldn't agree more. They got to get those, both of them.
Yeah. Chad, did the screen share break?
Yeah, we lost the screen share for a second, but Grace, you just keep filling because we're just doing awful tonight. But
yeah,
we'll get that back here.
Yeah,
there it is.
This is the third or fourth time we've started the show. If you think this is bad, you should have seen the other three. Why we're getting started late tonight. But I like Towson and Wilmington, another team that, we haven't talked about them as much as we've talked about Towson and Charleston. And Hofstra was a team that we like coming into the season too. So 4 really good teams at the top of this league. But yeah, if you pull up Wilmington here, not the most impressive as far as what's in quad quads 1 and 2. North Texas, a fairly decent win on a neutral floor, but you kind of gotta. Their metrics are pretty good. RPI 18. Why is this team so good?
Yeah, I got to tell you that the metrics are good. The strength of schedule is good, but they lost their 3 big chances here at UConn, at North Carolina, Oklahoma. They were
Yeah,
competitive
they were
and
sort of in
somewhat
there with
but
North Carolina.
I just don't see the schedule ahead for Wilmington to do much more, to have any shot to get an outside of an automatic bid, short of, literally running the table. And even then, there's such bad RPIs. Bad nets. Wow, I just went way back in time. There's such
Yeah.
bad nets in this conference that who knows. Outside of the big other 3 teams, the Towson, the Hofstra, and the College of Charleston. We have joining us Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org. A little bit late, Rocco.
Save us,
Rocco,
Rocco,
you've missed a
save
great
us.
show so far. You won't believe how well the show's going.
We have been
No,
absolutely
well,
awful. We need you here to save us, Rocco.
Yeah.
Let's do a reboot in that case. I just got back from a holiday party. Glad that you're still going.
All right.
We
We just-
we
Yeah,
just
we're
really
on the
started. We're
microphone.
talking to Colonial, Rocco. So let me give you your 3 seconds here to talk anything you want to talk on the Colonial as you jump in here.
Yeah, I think UNCW is a team that plays really cohesive. They play a lot like they remind me of Cleveland State when Dennis Gates was there the last few years, just in terms of nobody cares about who gets the credit. They do internal competitions to figure out, who's going to get the most loose balls, who's going to create the most turnovers, who's going to get the most assists, just all these team-oriented objectives. It's been really awesome to see the kind of results that they're delivering, not only winning some really good games in their MTE by beating North Texas in the championship, but also some of the teams that they should beat, they're actually blowing them out this year. Last year, they were nipping everything out and getting one of the luckiest teams along with Providence in the country attached to them. But I think a lot of that stuff's not really luck. It's a lot of great team building that goes into this program. And Takeo Siddle's probably looking at an upgrade in his job if this continues to go this way. So shout out to them. Charleston's obviously unbelievable with that Virginia Tech win. But I think at the end of the day, Towson still might be the team to beat when we get to the end of league play.
Agreed.
And Stalika, let me bring you in as well. I've got the upcoming schedule in this conference on the screen as we are kind of finishing up non-conference play here. Charleston's last game is Monday night at Coastal Carolina. Anything else you're circling here in this last week or so of non-conference play?
Towson is actually on a brief 2-game losing streak right here. A game against Northern Iowa should get them off the schneid right here.
Yeah, and that is at some event or another. I'm not certain exactly where that game's going to be played. There's a lot of events coming up on Saturday, a lot of neutral court events. I think that Towson Northern Iowa game is
Chicago.
the one is in Chicago. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
part of the
Rocco.
Windy City.
United Center.
Let's go back now that we finished with the Colonial after, and we've really been lousy so far. Let's go through the rest of the conference in alphabetical order. Hope we get a little bit better.
Yeah.
Sleek, let me start with you over in the America East, because right there on your screen, you're talking about Lowell and where they stand in relation to both Rhode Island and Massachusetts.
Well, their first notable game was when they took on the so-called flagship of the UMass system when they went over to Amherst. They actually led, I think, the entire way with the exception of one tie. Amherst UMass actually did make a bit of a late run and did manage to get, I think, within 1 point until Lowell finally managed to pull away in that one. That being said, they missed a chance to go 2-0 against the Atlantic 10, even though they led Rhode Island for most of that game. But the Rams actually came back and Lowell was not able to pull off that particular double right there.
I'll tell you what, this Lowell team has impressed me. And Dorman, you got to look at the schedule, the way the schedule was. They went to UMass Thursday. They beat SFBK on Saturday. Then had the Rhode Island game on Tuesday. That's 3 games in 6 days. And they kind of ran out of gas at the end of the Rhode Island game.
Yeah, absolutely right. Exactly. You stole my thunder there, Chad. But I love the scheduling. I love the competition. Play up, get ready. Make sure your team is ready for conference play and prepared for the tournament. I like what they have shown on the court. I agree. They just ran out of gas in the last game, but I love, like I said, the scheduling, and I see what they're doing. But I do also believe Bryant's going to be heard from before this is all said and done. I really like this Bryant team.
Yeah, is this a 2-horse race? I mean, as long
No.
as it's more than a 1-horse race,
No,
because
no,
don't
I
think?
don't think it's a 2-horse race, Rocco. I think it's a 3-horse race. I
Uh,
think Vermont is not
Yeah.
done by any means at all.
Vermont's not done. John Becker's the best coach in this league. No disrespect to Grasso or Duquette, but yeah, I think you're already starting to see signs. They just beat Colgate on the road on Saturday. It's kind of like here comes Vermont. They were sleeping in November, but also breaking in some new pieces. Becker is a March man, and he's going to get this team ready by the time we get to March. However, I will say UMass Lowell deserves all the credit. They're the best team right now. They're the highest ranked team in the metrics, and they've earned that. And if not for a really tough call, who knows? Maybe we go to double overtime last night, but unfortunately it didn't work out for the Riverhawks. But yeah, I think it's great because I think most of the year we've been looking at this as a two dog league. Now it's a 3-dog league pretty clearly.
And it's a
Interesting game.
fun one because campus sites conference tournament.
Interesting game coming up. Another one of these neutral court games on Saturday at some location or another, maybe in Chicago as well. Who knows? Bryant and Liberty though on Saturday, matching up. It's somewhere. We'll know by the time we get.
Yeah, that's going to be played at the Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Okay, Hall of Fame, Springfield, Massachusetts for that one. So a little closer to Bryant, but not exactly in the backyard.
Right.
Griggs, over in the A-Sun Conference,
All right.
I know they're in red there because they're ineligible. They're the first-year transitional team, but Queens went to East Tennessee State tonight and won that game. I'm just so impressed by this Queens team.
I am,
so
and
far.
what a fun story. Hopefully we do see them in, it won't be the NIT or the NCAA, but in a postseason tournament. They remind me of that NJIT team and some of the Lopes teams that we really liked when they were transitioning. They're as good as anybody in the league.
Well, they will have a shot to win the A-Sun Conference tournament, much like Bellarmine did last year. So
yeah,
we'll at least get
the
that
A-Sun
chance.
might have the distinct honor of having back-to-back years where the tournament champion didn't go to the NCAA. I don't think that happens too often. But yeah, I love what they've done. They had a win against Marshall. That's looking like a good win. We would be talking about them as probably the story of the league if they were eligible for the postseason.
Among those postseason eligible teams, Dorman, I don't really know. I mean, I guess it's Gulf Coast and Liberty have done the most so far.
I agree with you. If I had to pick one right now, it's Florida Gulf Coast. One of those losses I know was to Tennessee. So they've had a good season so far. I think I like the way they play basketball. They do a lot of good things. Well, this conference could get turned upside down. So many teams from the middle could break out and show us something. Liberty definitely has the opportunity, talent. Lipscomb, I think, might be heard from. And Stetson's not terrible. Some of those losses are against some big top-ranked teams. So I think this conference is well open, but I agree with the guys. Queens is the story so far.
Yeah, and here's the upcoming schedule, and Salika's already circling the big Monday night game of Davis and Elkins at North Florida, or maybe it's the Queens and Nebraska game. One of the two.
Yeah, it was
Davis
trying
and
to get-
Elkins going
It's
to
trying
the
to be.
Ospreys.
I'm trying to get Queens and Nebraska in there. I've got a quick finger on my laptop, but that's perfect with our brand for tonight.
Yeah.
Let's keep things rolling here to over to the Big Sky Conference. And Rocco, I know this is one of your favorite leagues, although maybe not so much this year, but I guess we finally have one team with a winning record against D1 competition. So congrats to Northern Colorado.
There you go. That's mainly because they lost to a non-D1 team, though. So they are 5-5.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But how about the 6-2 win? All the games are complete in the Big Sky Summit League Challenge Series this year. So there's something for the Big Sky.
There is something for the Big Sky. Portland State swept the Beavers. I get that the Beavers are bottom of the Pac-12, but that's a really big deal for them. And I think Eastern Washington took Texas Tech to the wire last night. That's a really good sign for them. Montana's had some nice turnaround games at home. I think they blew the doors off of South Dakota State.
They did.
And that's impressive. And I still think the Montana State Bobcats, who have 2 to 3 NBA players, are going to be the team to beat. They've just had some wild travel, some scheduling, toughness. Their MTE was really tough up in Canada. I think when it's all said and done, the Bobcats are the team to beat. If you want a deep sleeper, I know you always do, Chad. I would say keep your eye on the Idaho Vandals. They've won 3 of their last 4.
Ooh,
They've got a couple of guys. They're buried in the rankings because they started off at the bottom. It's going to take them forever to get any kind of decent like Ken Palm ranking. But they just took Riverside to the Horn, lost by 2 points. They won at Pacific. I mean, for Idaho's level, they're playing really consistently good basketball. They've got a couple JUCO kids from my backyard in the Tacoma, Seattle area that are their 2 best players, and I'm kind of excited to see where this goes.
and how did they do in their big rivalry game?
They didn't play it this year.
Oh, I'm so hurt.
Uh,
Just for that reason alone, I don't like Idaho.
Well,
not their
Idaho
fault.
State at Washington, that's kind of like the reverse, right? That's going up on Saturday. The big game of the upcoming schedule here, of course, is only one thing to be circling. It's Sunday. It's Northern Colorado at Colorado. And then followed up
Yes.
by Tuesday, Air Force at Northern Colorado. Huge week in the Front Range
In the
Conference. that
front
we're gonna
range,
get-
yes,
We're going to be
very
getting to at
big.
the end of the show.
Although, keep the schedule up here for a moment. Is there a provisional membership for Northwest Indian College here? Because they've got games at Idaho, Montana State, and Eastern Washington.
Could they be moving up to the Big Sky next season? Keep tuned. I don't think so, but Salika, let me stick with you over the Big South Conference here, where High Point has been leading the way so far. Longwood was the preseason pick, but what do you like so far? What have you seen this past week?
Well, High Point happened to be one of the victims of a Queen's surprise start here to a Division I play. They ended up losing by 8 at home right here. I mean, we're still waiting for Longwood to really break out of their shell right here. They did get a decent road win in St. Francis, Brooklyn last night.
Yeah, they did, and that's a good sign for this Longwood team. They were the preseason pick. I still think they may end up being the best team in the conference.
I
They may
think
end
so
up
too.
repeating.
I do like what High Point has done. I'm impressed with the 8-2. I know it's a little bit of a pastry cart, but I kind of starting to like them. High Point.
And they won at Furman. That was a huge win for
Yeah,
them.
it was. Yeah,
I'll
and
tell
that's
you,
the one that kind of made me sit up and be like, "Ooh, that's good."
there's a game here to circle Sunday at High Point at UNC Wilmington. We were just talking about that Wilmington team
Yeah.
over when we were doing the Colonial at the start of the show. High Point going there. Should be a real good game, actually.
I think so. Yeah.
Potential under the radar game of the day, Salika.
We shall see on Sunday.
We'll see
Yeah.
on Sunday. Keep us in
In
suspense,
suspense. Yeah.
here.
It's a potential. Every game is a potential under the radar.
just
I'm
saw
sorry,
number
that
2.
game's been disqualified.
Yeah, apparently it has been. Well, okay, let's where are we? Who am I up to even? I have no idea what we're doing.
I think it's the
Dor-
Big West.
Dorman, Big West
Yeah.
Conference. Let me go over to you, Dorman. Let me go over to you with the Big West here. And UC Santa Barbara win at Pepperdine this past week, and then non D1 win. Are they starting to take control, or is it still this Irvine team?
I like the Gauchos. The Gauchos are off to a great start. The only loss, I believe, are to the Duquesne Dukes. They're playing good basketball. Irvine, Santa Barbara and Irvine, I think, are going to battle all year long for the top spot in this conference.
Yeah, and it's kind of what the conference has been like the past 10 years or
Yeah.
so. I think is Santa Barbara, Irvine. Every now and then somebody else sticks some heads up or steals.
UC
Steals
Davis had
conference
that little
tournament.
run, a few
Yeah.
years ago.
Well, they just stole a conference tournament.
Be-
Their
Yeah.
conference, yeah. Or was that
Beach
Cal
was
Poly
really
that
good
did
for a
that?
while. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
guess we'll know-
disappointed in Beach.
we are going to start
Dark.
finding out a lot more about this Hawaii team, maybe actually with the Diamond Head coming up there that they're hosting as well. But actually, there's some pretty interesting games coming up this next week here as we conclude
Yeah.
non-conference play. Griggs, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna like Diamond Head fever is in the air. People are decorating. You see lights all over town, trees being put up, people getting ready for their big Diamond Head parties.
Yeah.
Um,
See if Long Beach can stand the game tonight in Southern Cal. We
Yes,
Might
there are
be,
three games
interesting.
coming up. 3 games coming up tonight. Nevada hosting UC San Diego, Oregon hosting UC Riverside. Ducks could be in trouble. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
Riverside's winning right now, 28-26.
there we
Yeah.
go.
Wow.
There we go.
Yeah, it's time to read Charles Dickens a Diamond Head story or Carol.
Rocco, Conference USA. Now we've been watching Middle Tennessee at the top of the screen here simply by the fact that they have that early game against Rice for some weird reason. But there are several teams here that are really turning my head. Let's start with Florida Atlantic, though. This team just keeps winning games.
Yeah, I mean, it's an electric offense where, they're shooting 41.5% as a team from deep, third best team in the country shooting behind the arc. But I think one of the things that gets overlooked about the Owls is the fact that, well, two things. That one, their defense is actually top 70, and that's how you win games. And number two is they're really good at ball protection. They're a top 35 team at protecting the ball. Top 50 team at not forcing unnecessary errors, what I call unforced errors like tennis. And you're looking at a team in the last couple of weeks that have been playing without Elijah Martin, who is arguably their best shooter. And he's a top 75 national 3-point percentage guy at 48%. So it's an Owls team built to last. Obviously, the loss to Ole Miss is a little bit of an asterisk because Michael Forrest wasn't available. So if they're in the bubble chase down the stretch, which they very much could be, I think the Forrest thing needs to be mentioned about that Ole Miss loss. But otherwise, they've got FIU and Northern Kentucky is all that stands between them and Conference USA play. They're both at home.
FIU is actually a conference game.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. So
just Northern Kentucky. Yeah,
just Northern Kentucky's left. They're going to win that game. So it's all about how they perform in the league. And I don't want to overlook that because I think most people are just going to look at the North Texas game or the UAB game, and that's fine. Those are going to be fun. West Kentucky's going to be fun. But it's the trips to UTEP. It's the trips to Charlotte. It's the Louisiana Tech trip. Those are the stuff in this league with the deep travel that could really throw off their at-large hopes.
Yeah, and you had mentioned it large. That's why I wanted Chad to pull them up. We've got 4 teams here that I don't think all 4 get in, but all 4 are positioning themselves to basically be in a position to run at the bubble.
I'll tell you the quick Greeks before you go much further. I got these 2 profiles up. FAU has that at Florida win. That's not necessarily a turn to Florida team though. UAB has nothing in the top 2 quads yet, and there's no non-conference chances left for either of these 2 teams.
There aren't, but that's the thing with FAU and North Texas and UAB and Western Kentucky and perhaps even FIU. Is there enough quality in the conference for not all 5, but 1 or 2 to get those wins against each other if 1 or 2 pull themselves away from the other 2 or 3? But there's 5 really good teams in this league.
You have right now between those 4 teams. I'll throw Charlotte up here as well as a 5th team. Okay, there's your best 2 wins are at Florida and the Boise State win by Charlotte. So between 5 teams, you've got 2 decent wins. And I don't think that either one is
okay. Bring in the bracketeer on this one. I'm not saying all 5 get in. I'm saying that if 1 or 2 can pull away from the other 3, then those 3 will supply the big wins that you're talking about. Am I right there? Are there quality wins to be had within the league?
I think so. So if you look at, the net is not anywhere near mature yet, but the key in that is in Conference USA, like we mentioned with FAU, they only have 1 non-league game left. They're going to get going on league play really quick here. So the data from that standpoint is almost complete. Now it's just going to be how it goes. And the way it stands right now, Charlotte's 76. You play at Charlotte, it's almost a quad 1 game right now. Middle Tennessee's 85. That's nice. You've got both UAB and North Texas in the 60s. Obviously, FAU is like crazy at number 11. But even in that next tier down, Western Kentucky 128, you imagine that's going to go up a little bit. La Tech and UTEP in the lower 100s. You really just you can't lose to FIU, UTSA, or Rice. Those have got to be easy wins for all these teams to keep their numbers up throughout conference play.
Well, as we record this, Rocco, Western Kentucky down 2 points at Louisville. They can take a major take in their net if they lose that game.
Yeah, that's losing to a potential centenary team. But no, Chad is right. Like, it is a unique case because no one has those big singular out of conference wins that you normally think that the under the radar teams need. But when that many teams have bloated records like that, does that give them the chance to get the big wins in the league? That was my question. And I think the answer is definitely maybe.
It's a maybe because we still have to see how things shake out. But keep in mind, FAU did win at Florida. If Florida can get things rolling, that's going to look awesome.
Yeah. If Florida gets things rolling, if Boise State gets things rolling, I mean, those wins can help this conference. But
Boise State's playing a lot better too. So there you go.
Yes, they are.
Here's the upcoming schedule. As we mentioned, West Kentucky at Louisville playing as we record this, the rest of the schedule, and we are really at the end of non-conference play here, even getting to some conference play games, I think, out here in the schedule. I see Louisiana Tech at UTEP, for example, on there.
Just imagine what conference play is going to be like if you have to play Florida Atlantic and North Texas back to back. Florida Atlantic is a team that likes to run up and down the floor, and North Texas is going to be like going to the dentist without Novocaine.
Well, throw it this way. Look at the tempos here. UAB, number 5 in the nation in tempo.
Yeah.
North Texas 363. Charlotte 362, right behind them. The 2 slowest teams in the nation in the same league.
Love this league. Yeah.
Yeah.
This become a
I
fun
still
conference
think
this year.
I think Andy Kennedy will get this together. I love this UAB team. I love Jelly. I think they're explosive on offense. They're going to run tempo like we just showed there. I think Andy Kennedy will have his team rolling in a few weeks.
They look very good against South Carolina, an SEC team tonight. I
Yes.
mean, be it South
I
Carolina.
think the
be it at home,
final
but-
was. I think the final was 14. They really it's closer to about 30.
Yeah, they beat Georgia.
It wasn't even a game.
Beat Georgia by 14 as well. So that's 2 SEC
Yeah.
wins by double digits.
I wish they had one more chance at a big boy.
Yeah.
There's the rest of the upcoming schedule, but let's keep rolling here. And Salika Horizon League, we're into some conference play, and Milwaukee surprised everybody at 2-0 in conference, 8-4 overall. That may be the only story here.
Milwaukee has been the pleasant surprise here as far as 2-0. Wright State's been the biggest disappointment at 0-2. Youngstown State and Robert Morris are also other teams to keep an eye on, even though they're 500 right here. I mean, this is still going to be, I think, the final really week of non-conference play before we start to get back into conference play, at least once we get past the Christmas break right here.
When was IUPUI's last D1 win? We are entering a Savannah State level drought here. I mean, when it comes to lack of D1 wins, what did they lose? Like 80 in a row in that one stretch?
I'll tell you that I don't know what's going wrong with this conference the last couple of years. It's been way down off what it normally has been. One thing probably the biggest thing that I'm looking at when I watch this conference right now is Antoine Davis and the way that he's climbing up the all-time scoring leaders chart. He did top 3,000 career points. I don't know how high he's going to get on that chart, but he's going to probably beat the recent guys like Mike Dahlman, maybe even catch Chris Clemens, what he did.
Mike Davis, a hell of a bench coach. He's got this strategy where they give the ball to Antoine Davis and get out of his way.
He's fun to watch.
Yeah.
He will have a bit of a showcase on next Wednesday when they go to Cincinnati to take on the Bearcats.
Yeah. He'll be the best player on the floor. He won't beat UC by himself.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Dorman over in the Ivy League here.
Good league. Okay.
We've got slightly better than the Horizon League. We've got this Yale team now sitting at 7-3. Nice a win at Fairfield the other night.
Great win.
The loss to Kentucky. Yeah.
The loss to Kentucky wasn't bad. If you watch the game, they were in that game. Kentucky was clearly worried and scared. I thought Yale played really well in Rupp, and I don't want to say they had a chance to win in the end. They didn't, but they hung in tough. They battled. They were physical on the boards. From what I've seen in this conference, I would pick Yale right now. I really like what they're doing.
Yeah, Princeton with the loss to Iona, but it was a close game. It was a good game. They lost to Iona last night. You got to keep an eye on this Penn team as well. Just to beat Temple, okay. Temple's not that great this year, but beating by 20 was very impressive. That was the score margin of more than anything else in mind.
I'm with you, Chad. It wasn't so much that they beat Temple, although Temple has had their moments, but it was the way they dominated them. So I kind of this league has got some. You got Penn. Brown has looked good at times. Yale has looked good. Princeton was a team that we liked before the year. How about Cornell, like flexing their muscles against Miami? They lost. Is the Ivy League ever been this fun?
And they're going to Syracuse on Saturday, that same Cornell team. So keep an eye on that one.
And normally it's a 1 or a 2 horse race, and it's just those two blowing through the field. The Ivy's going to be competitive this year.
Yeah, that Final Four will be really exciting.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah,
and Cornell could beat Syracuse in the Dome over the
can.
weekend. Watch out!
I kind of expect
they had Miami. They could have beaten Miami.
They could have.
They could have gotten one stop.
Yeah.
I will say,
like literally at any point in the game, had they gotten one stop.
Yeah.
It was just one of those
Great.
For sure.
Harvard's got an interesting 48 hours on Sunday and Tuesday where they're going to host Howard and then hop on a bird for about 3,000 miles to take on Irvine 2 days later.
They're heading out, are they in the Diamond Head?
Might be
Who's this?
Harvard.
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 No.
No? Okay, why are they
No,
heading
they're
out to, or why are they heading out west?
They're
side?
going home to study, Chad. They're going
Okay,
home
okay,
to
Yeah.
study.
okay. Okay. they're going to
I
study.
think teams come out west every once in a while around the holidays. Just
Okay.
Yeah.
thing they have with California schools. I think some of their players are probably from here.
Rocco, Metro Atlantic Conference, this Iona team had a nice week. Neutral court wins over the Bonnies and Princeton. Not great wins, but this is what you got to, these are the wins you need to pick up to, and they're doing it.
They're doing it, and they're looking good in most of them. They beat down St. Bonaventure Sunday. That was a quick turnaround for a tough Princeton team. So even though they had to grind, it was a tough spot schedule-wise. And, playing in a D3 gym after playing in an NBA arena is really interesting as well. So now the real story can finally take off because
Next week is huge for these gals. Yeah.
Sunday. Well, Sunday's the big one with Mr. Pitino and his son going toe to toe in Albuquerque. The atmosphere is going to be crazy. Rick Pitino's press conference after Princeton. I don't know if you guys saw the quote, but he said he would rather die than lose. So, I mean, there's more material going into this game, and we're still 4 days away. I can't wait. And I think the teams are very even. I got to see New Mexico in person on Monday. They do a lot of things well, but they're not dominant. And I think there's a window for Iona to go down there and get that win. And if they do, watch out. They'll be on the large radar firmly.
But then they turn
That
around,
might be a little hyper. Yeah.
Yeah, let's say they then turn around and they go to Hawaii. They are the team that's in the Diamond. I knew we had one coming up.
Yeah, that'll be
Uh,
key. Yep.
Start with
Well,
SMU, potentially Utah State game in the second round.
Yep.
Potential true road game against Hawaii for the championship. So
Yeah,
knows?
I've been
be
been
tough out there.
joking, but only half about how all I really want to see in that game is a blow by handshake at the end. We may get it.
Right.
Saying he'd rather die than lose is probably a little hyperbole. It's not that they don't respect each other; it's that they do, and that fuels it even more. They both want that one. It's
Yeah,
not a
exactly.
friendly family game of cards.
And I promise you the pit will be sold out. It's gonna be
Yeah,
rough. It's gonna be a crazy game.
yeah.
as we did all of last year, because no one, by the way, there are 10 other teams in the Metro Atlantic. Nobody cares. They don't matter. We saw that
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, we saw that last year. It was all Iona. No
It
other
was just
story.
Iona. That was all that mattered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody else did anything in this conference, St. Peter's. Here's the upcoming schedule. We've got the big
Quinnipiac's
one.
gone to the bakery. I mean, they've really beaten up on that 353 strength of schedule. They really have. I mean, that is pretty good.
They're starting conference play actually with the St. Peter's on
Yeah.
Sunday. So
Yeah.
let's just jump right on ahead here to the Mid-American Conference.
Yes.
Okay, Greg, you want to talk about it? Go ahead.
Well, there's one team in particular that I like, and it's basically my thoughts last week. I think Kent State is great. I hate to praise a team for its losses. They went to Houston and had a lead with less than a minute to go. They were right in there with Gonzaga. This is just a really tough team that I realize when you look at their profile, there is a part of it that's a little bit lacking. But this is a really good team. And where do they stand if they blow through the rest of their schedule?
Well, they got a non.
They're going to have a lot of quad 4 wins. Is what they're going to have.
They got New Mexico State coming up in the first round. They're actually in the Sun Bowl tournament. So they get a true road game against UTEP if they beat New Mexico State. That should help a little with stuff like strength of schedule. But Dorman, when you look at this team, you want to talk an at-large bid, you really got to be dominant in the MAC. You really got to be dominant.
They really got to be dominant. Max lost 1 or 2. I don't, unfortunately, see him getting in without the auto bid. I don't see him giving Kent State the nod without any of those signature wins, which is a shame because this team should be playing in March and could win a game or 2 in March in the tournament. But I hate to say it, but I really feel they're going to need the auto bid.
Yeah, I think.
Rocco, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in if we're playing the odds, Dorman's definitely right on that. There's probably going to be a slip up 2 or 3 in the MAC because it's just a tough league. and these teams know
Rivalries.
they know each other
Yeah,
so
the
well.
rivalries in this
There's
league.
going to be
are
a
like-
night.
yeah.
There's going to be a couple bad nights where another coach
Yep.
game plans them well, and they just don't pull it out. But like I think that if somehow they get through the MAC and maybe they only play Toledo once, which I think is kind of nuts. But if they lose that game and they dominate most of the other teams, this will be a really interesting case study for how the committee evaluates a really highly rated metrics team. Much like we've seen with Houston, Gonzaga at much higher levels, even Murray State and Wofford in recent years. Is that enough because they lost close in their heavyweight fights against Houston and Gonzaga? Is that enough to carry the way, even though their best road wins right now are just
Yeah,
Cleveland State and Northern Kentucky?
it is an interesting case. I will say that like last year's Murray State team won at Memphis, and who wasn't a
And then they
tournament
lost
team,
one.
but still
Yeah.
there was something there, and that Wofford team was really really good. I forget what their profile was, but
A lot
I
of
think
wins. A lot of wins.
everybody had them in on the first ballot. Like it
Yeah, they
just
were
wasn't even a
7.
question.
Right. And Murray got there. They had the decent wins, couple decent wins, no other data, but they only lost
Yeah.
one. So it's like give them the benefit of the doubt. This
Yeah,
team's lost 3 times, but I mean, all 3 teams are great, and they were all on the
close, very close.
They're,
Yeah,
they're all
Yeah.
close, and they were all on the other team's true home court. So it is really interesting.
The rest of
Yeah.
the upcoming schedule for the conference is on the screen here. Interesting week for Toledo, also a team we liked a lot heading into the season. They're at Marshall, then at Vermont this week. So you might want to circle both those games.
Yeah.
They go 2-0, and we're going to be talking next week that this is a 2-horse race here in this conference.
yeah.
I think it is
Also good. Also good for a team that has a strength of schedule 341 right now. That's going to boost it up a few points.
A few points, yes, a few points. Stalika over in the MEAC. We do not have any teams with winning records against D1 play, but we did have Norfolk State with a road win this week at William and Mary.
William at Marion, it also gets them to at least within one game of 500 as far as D1 play goes right here. Otherwise, you can look at Howard, who got a D1 win against Florida International at home yesterday.
And how about a shout out to just up the road from me in Lakewood, New Jersey, the Georgian Court team with a road win at Delaware State. And Delaware State not a good showing. A team in contention for our centenary award for the worst team in D1.
Yes.
It's a good thing Villanova didn't play Georgian Court.
Yes, the campus would not have accepted that. I still like Norfolk State to possibly run the table with 14 wins in the season and then 3 more in the conference tournament. I just don't think anybody. I know you all have said Howard's looked good it off and on, and they have. And Coppin State another one. Norfolk is just so much better than everybody else. If anyone's going to get inside the 16 line, it's them.
You'll get a chance to see Norfolk, I believe, on national TV here on Sunday with their.
Really?
This is an
Wow.
HBCU event that they're in Saturday and Sunday. Most
Okay.
Sunday's games are nationally televised.
Huh.
The A&T game is one I believe is nationally televised on Sunday. The Hampton one I think is just being streamed.
Okay.
And then they're at Nevada next Wednesday. There we go.
Overmatched, but once they get into the league, I just like them a lot.
Let's keep things rolling along here. Rocco, over in the Missouri Valley Conference, we were all on Drake for a while now, but I think it's time we really got serious about those Indiana State Sycamores.
Yeah, I think we've been talking about them every week
Okay.
since the beginning of the year. I like what they're doing. Obviously, the Southern Indiana loss looks bad. It was an OT game. Southern Indiana, give them a lot of credit. They're perfect at home. They beat both the Salukis and the Sycamores. It's pretty remarkable because they don't look very good when they play on the road, but they actually get a really good home court advantage. The student section was rocking. I watched the entire second half and overtime of that game, and just hats off to Southern Indiana. They wanted it a little bit more, but I think Indiana State, it's a battle of attrition in the eyes of head coach Josh Schertz, and I think that's how he built his roster. It's a really interesting roster makeup. About 8-9 athletic guys. They're all very offensive minded. Question is, can they continue to play enough defense to get the wins? But the philosophy is, Valley's a physical league. Guys are going to drop like flies. Cooper Niso has been hurt for them, as an example. And they will win that war of attrition with their depth. And I think they have some bulldogs like Cam Henry that get to the lane and a lot of great shooting on the outside. I think it's a really interesting mix of players, and they play well together. I don't think they're going to lose at home for some reason. I think they got that early tough one out of the way with Drake. I think they're going to go perfect at home, but we'll see.
All right, there's
Yeah.
the rest of their schedule. And Dorman, actually, let me ask you about that Drake team, because that's the team we all liked heading into the season. Important week ahead here at St. Louis, and Mississippi State. 2 huge non-conference games.
They need them both to get this
Yes.
train back on the tracks. I mean, I was one of the ones that were so high on this Drake team, everything they were bringing back. Not that St. Louis also to me has been disappointing, but Drake has got to get this win. And if nothing else, for the team morale and get back going right before conference play. Not underrating how important these next 2 games are for Drake. And a little sneaky under the radar team in the Missouri Valley. I like this. The Braves team. Sorry about
Bradley.
Bradley. Thank you. Bradley. They have 2 interesting out of conference games before they get going in the conference. They have Arkansas and Akron.
I thought you meant
I don't
don't forget Stonehill. Come on.
True.
Come on.
I don't expect them to beat Arkansas, but let's see if they can stay in the game and then maybe knock off Akron. 2 big games before they head to conference.
Yeah.
I like what Wardell's been doing there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Upcoming schedule here in the conference, we see the end of the non-conference play, I believe, showing up on the screen here. We mentioned some of the key games already.
Yeah. Indiana State Duquesne. Yeah. We mentioned it.
yes.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yes, important. Big game for Indiana State at a decent Duquesne team.
Mhm.
A great Duquesne team by A10 standards, a decent
Right, yeah, this
Duquesne
year.
team by
Yeah.
anybody else's standards. Who we up to here? How about Griggs? Why don't we go to you for one of our
Alright.
favorite conferences?
Oh yes, our favorite. And I continue to petition this league. I call them 3-4 times a day. I spent 65 hours on hold last week trying to get this league to adopt a format to where they just don't play out of conference games and we just get a quadruple round robin of 32 games.
Well, I
Um,
mean,
Yeah, that would be the best. Yeah, that's what
I
we all
gotta
want.
say that the thing that still surprises me, Rocco, I gotta ask you about this. This Merrimack team, I know they're ineligible. They were everybody's preseason pick in this conference, and they still don't have a D1 win. Are they still going to win the conference though? I mean,
Yeah, who could say no, right? They haven't looked very competitive. Gallo's just done such a great job his first couple of years. He built a great reputation. I think a lot of people gave him the benefit of the doubt because they didn't know what to make of a bunch of these other teams either. So, it just kind of shook out that way. I'm still really excited about what Fairleigh Dickinson's building. They've picked up 5 D1 wins. Some of they won at the buzzer on a dunk against NJIT on Sunday. That was cool. Obviously, they're not competitive when they play the big teams yet, except Loyola Chicago. They took the OT on opening night. But I just like the fact that they brought in the D2 legend Tobin Anderson to run the program, and he brought 3 of his starters from D2, and they outplay a lot of teams at their level because they have that cohesion. I think that's going to be good for them when they get into an NEC tournament. I'm not saying they're going to win the NEC regular season, but I think they could be tough in the NEC tournament.
I did have another thought. The membership down the 9. There is a team this year that's doing a lot better than what we have ever seen or expected. And the conference is a little bit down. Can Fordham get promoted into this league if they keep playing the way that they are?
I think Fordham could win this league. I'll
Yeah.
just go out there on a limb with that. But here's
But most
there's the,
years, I would not say that. I would not say that. Maybe
there's the upcoming schedule on the screen. We can pretty much forget about all these games on the schedule because these are not the ones that count. The ones that are going to count in a couple weeks when we get to conference play, and
Yeah.
then the NEC becomes.
If you
so
have
much
not
fun.
downloaded the NEC Front Row app, do it now. Stop the show, as good as it's been, especially at the beginning, and download that app right now.
Stalika, Ohio Valley Conference time, and SIU Edwardsville did lose their game against Illinois State, but they still have been the story of this conference.
Well, they've been one of the stories of the conference right
Okay.
here. Tennessee State has been another one that's been piling up a couple wins here and there.
I
mean,
hope
granted,
they haven't beat anybody of note though, have they really?
No, it's Edwardsville.
well, you get bragging rights within the city of Nashville for beating Lipscomb at least.
Okay, okay. I would say the only other story this week is the Southern Indiana win over Indiana State that we already mentioned, but you know, it's just been, this is a conference that looks like it's on its way to Dayton at the moment.
Unless Edwardsville can blow through the league, they might get it. I could see them getting inside the first four. Edwardsville has looked kind of good.
Now I will say
Metrics are
this
solid.
for Moorhead though. This was the team who was expected to win. They may be finally showing a pulse. They did get a comeback win against East Tennessee State over the weekend, and tonight they actually got a road win down at Georgia Southern. So
Yeah,
at least
that
they're not
game,
getting blown out anymore.
that
Yeah.
game not in the standings, but that did go final since we started the show. Moorhead did win that game tonight.
I think that's their first road win. I'm not sure though.
There's the rest of the upcoming games on the screen there, including Southern Indiana taking on IUPUI in a neutral
Yeah.
court setting. I think that's actually in Indianapolis, but just not on their home
Well,
court.
does it? They could play it at the playground.
Let's just keep things rolling here.
Yeah.
Dorman, how about the Patriot League?
Yeah. Surprised by American, actually. I did not think they would get off to a start like this. If you bring up their resume there, nothing great as far as knocking off anything of note, but they're playing good basketball. They've racked up some wins, and we haven't heard from American in a while, the Patriot, but they're going to give Colgate a run. I like this Colgate team, but American's got a nice team, as good as they've been in a long time.
Yeah, Griggs, I mean, that might be the story. The only other team I kind of looking at here, though, with big win on Sunday. How about this Navy team went to Towson and picked up the road win?
That was probably one of the more surprising things of the week. We didn't talk about that when we talked about Towson. I was more disappointed in Towson than I was impressed with Navy. But now that we're in the Patriot League, yeah, that was kind of impressive. And you start to look at them, 6-4 overall, all D1 wins. No one else in the league other than maybe Colgate with their win at Syracuse, who's I don't think as good as Towson, has a win like that. Can Navy make some noise in the conference?
Can Navy win the conference?
Yeah.
I
I still like Colgate and American, but it's kind of, you have to at least throw Navy in there. You have to.
Yeah.
They could win in VCU next week. That's a
Very
winnable game for Navy.
Interesting game next Wednesday,
Yeah.
Navy at VCU. Absolutely. That's one I'm going to be circling here. Rocco, how about the SoCon? You know, let's talk about some conferences with some pretty good teams, even though, you know, maybe not up to par what it's been in recent years, but Chattanooga and Furman sitting there with looking pretty decent at the moment.
Yeah, I'm frustrated with Furman. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
The way they played yesterday was, I thought, inexcusable. They were.
It's at NC State.
Yeah, I mean, it's their last big opportunity. If they get that win, maybe we can still start thinking about them as a two-bid option. They're clearly the most talented team with Slauson and Bothwell. And I still respect the heck out of Coach Ritchie. I think they'll get it figured out eventually. I just think it's frustrating because you get these 2 months to work with and any of their good tests. And of course, the loss to High Point. I mean, credit to High Point, but that's a really bad loss from Furman's perspective. You know, it's less of a slam dunk that they're going to win this league like we thought in the preseason. Chattanooga's won 5 in a row. Kudos to them. Greensboro with a great win over Marshall last night.
Yeah.
But so those are the two good stories. But I mean, Wofford's in all sorts of turmoil with their coaching situation. Got surprisingly blown out by a terrible Georgia Southern team. You know, Mercer and East Tennessee State are all over the place. And yeah, I think Sanford will be good as well down the road. It's just SoCon's down overall. That little bit is frustrating.
I'm liking what I'm seeing for Chattanooga. I know they haven't beat anybody I've known.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of non-D1 wins, but the 5 in a row.
I'm with you.
At Middle Tennessee, home against Belmont, at Georgia, coming up to end non-conference play. Not, I mean, other than the game at Georgia, not big names, but I think that those are, all 3 of them are winnable games. And if they win all 3, you really got to pay attention to this team.
Agree.
Yeah. And you know, Jake Stevens is the best possible player, at least the biggest nightmare matchup wise in the league by a mile with his inside outside game at 7 feet 275. I mean, good luck. And they're finally, Dan Earl getting there, getting comfortable, getting this rotation set. Look at their next three. It's going to be really telling. They're at Middle coming up tomorrow night. Yeah. Belmont on Sunday, Georgia next Wednesday. So let's see how they handle this 3-game stretch. I think they're going to fare pretty well.
Yeah, I think that's the story to look at here. There's the rest of the upcoming schedule for this week. Let's though try to keep things moving right on along here. Griggs, let me go back to you as we jump into the Southland Conference, which normally is a conference that we don't spend too much time on this time of year, except this Northwestern State team. Maybe they are worth a little bit of a discussion here.
Oh, I definitely think so. Go ahead and let's definitely pull them up.
Okay.
The net a little bit rough. We'll see everything here as soon as they appear. Okay, yeah. Now, the big win I think is the win at TCU. I think that's going to turn into a tier 1 win.
That might be a 1A win by the end of the day for all.
Yeah, and they have the home win against Southern Miss, who when we get to the Sun Belt, we're going to talk about. But they've won on the road. They won at SFA, who's going to win a lot of home games. Illinois State, at least formidable at home. I think this is a big week. Not so much the Baylor game. I think they're swinging way over their heads in that one. But between Rice and Texas A&M, if they can get one of those next 3 road games, just one.
Oh, I think they can win at Rice. I don't think that should.
Gotta win at Rice.
Yeah, you think they got to win at Rice? I think they can win at Rice. But
I think they can win 2 out of 3. I think they can win the A&M game.
Yeah. If they go 2 out of 3 and then blow through the Southland, which is not going to be hard for them to do. There is nobody in this league. Maybe not even them.
Nichols is good.
Nichols.
I know you like Nichols.
Nichols. The other thing you got to remember with Nichols here also, they are now hosting the conference tournament starting this year.
Okay, Nichols.
Well, that's a pretty big deal.
That's a huge deal. It was Nichols was talking about moving to the WAC, and one of the ways the Southland got them to stay was to move the conference tournament for like the next 5 years to Lake George. So it's
and it's not like Nichols is in the middle of New Orleans where it's like kind of neutral. They're in like a really remote location in Thibodaux, Louisiana. It's like that's a really big advantage.
Yeah, that win against San Diego was something, I guess. They don't
Texas Tech. They had to lead most of the game.
They did. I'll give you that.
They have 5 losses, Briggs, but it's Arizona, Irvine, Texas Tech, BYU, Wyoming, all on road or neutral. There's no shame in any of these losses.
Yeah,
they got Mississippi State on the road too coming up here. And Baylor coming up on the road. They're going to have they have a great strength of schedule, quite honestly.
Yeah, they do. I'll give you that. And they're lifting way more weight now than what they'll have to when they start Southland play. But Northwestern State has looked like the kind of team that I think can blow through the league. And if they do, especially if they get Texas A&M and Rice, that's a tournament profile.
Okay. Well, there's the rest of the upcoming schedule in the Southland. I think, let's keep a look at those two teams where I'm going to be looking at least this season. Corpus Christi.
Nichols should get the win against Sealand.
Corpus Christi was in the tournament last year. They won the Southland Conference tournament last year, after I think for the 4 seed, but they did get a bid also. Keep an eye on them. But let me go, Dorman. Let me go back to you and jump over to the SWAC.
Interesting start for a lot of these for a lot of the SWAC members here. I like this Southern team coming into the year. I thought they had a chance to maybe take this conference. Still not over, obviously. They really had a tough schedule, and I say this often, but I love these schools, the under the radar schools that schedule tough, because at-large bids aren't coming often, but you got to be ready for the conference play in March for your conference tournament, and playing those games just gets you ready. I don't know if we're going to see anyone sip. Yeah,
but look at that. You've got three. You've got 3 of the top 6 strength of schedules of the entire nation in this conference here. 1, 2, and 6.
Great job. Yeah, I agree. So I think this conference is totally still up for grabs. I think it's going to be a big cluster. But watch for my team to watch for here, Southern. I really like the Jaguars.
All right. But Rocco, What about Grambling? They won at Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Grambling, I mean, with what Carter's doing, I mean, I'm sorry, Carter Eric Gordon. I mean, he's been phenomenal. And I like, what Coward's done. Cotton and Christian are good players. Old team too. A lot of seniors all across the Grambling team. So I have to pay more attention. I would say to them. I thought the Colorado game might have just been a high energy, great performance, but they backed it up now with the Vandy win. And
At Vatech, at Liberty, at Wisconsin, their next three. I mean, you're gonna get a chance to see
Liberty's
this team.
beatable. Liberty's beatable.
Liberty, yeah. This is one of the better stories in college basketball. I don't know if they could drop all three of the next three, but when they get into league play, because this was a team that was just like centenary award winning, like one of the 5 worst programs in all of D1. And look at them now. This is just a great turnaround.
So
They're
cool.
good.
They're
They're fun to watch.
Are they going to pull away from the conference, you think?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't
It just seems too preposterous that Grambling could, but I think they'll be in the race. They're at least in the debate.
During the
Which is
debate,
impressive.
I agree, Dorman, that Southern's tough. I think also, even though Alcorn's 3-7, I love that team. They're finally got 8 days of rest. I think they could pull off a shocker on Sunday at Seattle U.
So that would be a shocker. Yeah.
Yeah, I love their lineup. They've won. Speaking of shockers, they've won at the Shockers, and they've also won at Stephen F. Austin. So they've already got 2. Even though they're 3-7, they have 2 of those 3 are pretty powerful wins for this level. So I think there's 3 or 4 pretty good teams. Texas Southern's always good too.
Yeah, I was gonna say Texas Southern. You can never count them out.
Never.
Yeah.
Never. So the SWAC's getting better, slowly but surely, for sure.
I was going to say there's a huge game to circle here. This conference on Saturday, Florida A&M going to Louisville, but Louisville is going to be picking up their first win of the season tonight. And if the current score holds in blowout fashion over a pretty good Western Kentucky team. So
yeah, and they're going to totally torpedo Western Kentucky. They're up 18. This is I know that their program is storied and that the brand name is there, but the team is terrible, and this is just a really bad loss for Western Kentucky. Chad, we have to mention something else. Mississippi Valley State moving up in the world, getting votes in the top 25.
Congratulations to Mississippi Valley State. They did. I think I should have a cheer thing here. Something cheering.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, they received votes in the AP poll. Maybe somebody that meant to vote for Mississippi State and hit the wrong button. We don't know for certain.
Yeah.
I think Mississippi Valley State deserves that vote in the top 25 poll. They do have a 1D1 win. Stalika.
Does Rocco need to jump off? We don't want to kick him off, but all right.
I've got one more minute in me if we want to talk about the summit real quick.
Okay, Rocco,
sure.
Rocco, go ahead. Give us a little.
I'll make that my final thought.
All right.
Sorry about the time crunch. So yeah, St. Thomas. I actually like the St. Thomas team. I think Oral Roberts is clearly the team to beat. I think the biggest long-term challenge for Oral Roberts is the fact that the tournament is at the Pentagon. That's a disadvantage for them and a big advantage for the Dakota schools, as we see every year. But the thing I like about Oral Roberts a lot this year, Max Asmus has gone from taking about 31% of the team shots in the last 2 years in a row to now he's taking about 27%. Probably doesn't sound like a big difference, but that 4% decrease is just enough to get a little bit more guys involved. Kareem Thompson is one of the most efficient players in the country and just doing a little bit of everything. And this team does not make mistakes. They're one of the highest rated teams in ball security, ball protection. They're starting to figure out a little bit more on defense. I think this team's pretty legit. They blew out Liberty. Again, Liberty's all over the map, but besides their big heavyweight chances with Houston and St. Mary's and Utah State, they've handled everybody else with no problem. And I love the way they're playing.
Yeah, Missouri State to come, and then they go into conference play. So
right, you also got Denver up on the screen. I will say this for Denver, they lost by about 20 to UCLA, but played much better in that game than what Maryland is right now.
Denver's better than Maryland. There you go.
Yeah,
Denver. Well, as of tonight at least. I mean, you can't forget South Dakota State, despite the loss they've had. I think this team will make some noise before the end of the season as well.
Yeah.
But Here's the upcoming schedule. Any other games here? Salika, I was going to ask you about the conference. So we actually get into conference play. Rocco, thanks for joining us.
You.
But Salika, we just mentioned South Dakota State at Oral Roberts start conference play Monday is probably a game worth circling here.
No, probably the only game that's going to be worth circling here, unless you're
Okay.
looking for South Dakota State to finally get a win tonight against Bellevue. Granted, that's non-D1.
I think they are. Let's see. As we record this, they are. I don't know what they're doing against Bellevue tonight. Maybe they won final already.
Presumably beating them. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
We'll try to figure that out. I can't seem to find that.
we
game on my scoreboard.
Rocco, come back. We need Rocco
We're not doing very good.
We stink without
That game might have been
Rocco.
canceled. It's not showing up on my scoreboard at all right now. I don't know
We're
what's
gonna
going on
edit
with
the
that.
show to where we're only gonna show the part where Rocco was on it.
Denver up 5 on Colorado Christians record this, but let's jump. I'll try to figure out what's going on with that Bellevue South Dakota State game. Why I don't have a score in that? But Griggs, how about the Sun Belt while we
Okay.
get to work on that?
Well, there's two teams that I really like in this league. One is Southern Miss. They're only lost to that Northwestern State team, and they have some pretty decent wins. Can we pull up their profile real quick? We'll pull them up and go ahead and pull up Marshall as well. Marshall won 9 in a row before their loss the other night, but both teams looking really good on the court. There's Southern Miss there on the right. They have the win at Liberty, a decent win at Vanderbilt, making quite a bit of noise. Just the one loss at Northwestern State. Marshall, a lot of tier 3 and tier 4 wins, but Akron at Duquesne, I think that was a pretty good win against the Duquesne team that's playing pretty well. Their only losses to Queens and Greensboro. James Madison is another team that I really like in this league. I think it's a 3-horse race. The one problem is you just don't get many strikes, and I think James Madison may be out of them, minus blowing through the rest of their schedule. But I think all 3 of these teams can make quite a bit of noise if one of those 3 gets to the round of 64.
Just to go back very quickly on South Dakota State, the game against Bellevue tonight was postponed due to the weather conditions that are going on with this winter storm that's coming across the country here. So no Bellevue, South Dakota State tonight. That's why.
Okay.
Can I jump in on one point there?
Yeah,
Griggs was
absolutely. Please jump in. Yes.
Griggs was discussing Southern Miss. A great under the radar game next week. Southern Miss is going to UNLV. I believe it's next Thursday. That is going to be a fantastic game. I'm really excited for it. It'll 2 really good teams playing good basketball.
I've actually got to ask another question here, though. Salika, did he forget somebody when he said this was a 3-horse race of this conference?
Well, if we're talking about Southern Miss, Marshall, and Louisiana, I think you also have to mention James Madison
He
here.
mentioned James Madison.
Louisiana
Louisiana is a team that he missed. And I don't think you can count the Raging Cajuns at all.
You cannot. You cannot. Go ahead, Stalika. The only reason I did that is because I wanted Stalika to get a little FaceTime here.
No, I'm saving my FaceTime for when we're talking about App State blowing a game against Wake Forest later on.
Later on, we're on their conference, Salika. You want a minute on App State, Wake Forest? Go for it right now.
Oh, this was a game where App State actually had a lead with about 2 seconds to go, and
they had the lead in the ball with 2 seconds to go,
and they
lost.
failed to inbound the ball. Wake gets a game winner with 1.3 seconds left, and what could have been a hot upset never materialized.
They inbounded the ball. They inbounded it off of their own player's hand and out of bounds, and gave Wake a shot with 1 second left for the win. So it was. Here's the rest of the upcoming schedule. It's on the screen. We got one more full conference to go. Dorman, we have the Western Athletic Conference, and there's a lot to unpack here, I think, at this point. Not only New Mexico State, who's always the power here, but Sam Houston continuing to pick up wins and win at Louisiana Monroe tonight.
I love the way the Sam Houston team plays. I love the intense defense they put, the pressure on the ball, and they guard you all over the court. Really a fantastic job by Sam Houston State. If I had to pick someone, I'd be picking them. But there's good teams all over this conference, as you can see by some of these metric numbers. Grand Canyon, really good. Cal Baptist surprising to me. Seattle doing one of the best jobs they've done in years. This is
I-
really going to be a fun, exciting conference.
And I like the Seattle team. I know Rocco just picked them to be upset here in their game coming up against Alcorn State. They
I
are
liked this team for the
they're at
beginning of the
Oregon
year.
State first
Yeah.
tomorrow night, but Griggs, go ahead on.
Well, yeah, I mean, they
Seattle.
were. I do you remember when I was writing the preseason previews? I'm like, why in the? I almost was looking at it. They were picked 5th, and I couldn't figure out why. This is a great Seattle team.
And they're in the Diamond Head also. They're going to start with Utah
Yeah.
State, a great game. They could have
Yeah.
Iona if they can get by Utah State. So it's a real interesting half of the bracket there with Iona, SMU, Seattle, Utah State at the Diamond.
Yeah, it really is.
The other half of the brackets is George Washington, Washington State, Pepperdine, and Hawaii. So I don't know who set up these brackets, but they really messed that up, I think.
Yeah, really messed it up. Getting back to this, Sam Houston State adjusted defensive efficiency 38. Does that seem low? I mean, you watch Sam Houston State play, and the one thing about them is that you can't score on them.
Oh, that is
Even
the
in their
best-
losses, they've looked.
That's
great.
the
Their
best.
defense is phenomenal.
Yeah. I would think 38 is low for them,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It's adjusted.
It's adjusted, and it's but is by far the best in this conference. So hey,
Yeah.
as we record this, New Mexico State is at St. Mary's. They're down 9 points fairly early in the game. I
Yeah.
think that may be shooting over their heads right now, especially with everything else going around that program with the shooting and all that. So
Yeah. And we'll leave it at that. Please.
two more teams to discuss. Talika, you wanted to jump in about them at the start of the show. Cut Griggs off. Everybody missed his comment about top 25 teams. So it's all you, Chicago State and Hartford.
Chicago State was the real surprise last night. Granted, it's going to show as a 1-point loss against Murray State, but Chicago State was really in uncharted territory early in their game where they got up to a 30-8 lead against Murray State in the first 12 minutes of the first half. Even as late as the 13-minute mark in the second half, they were still up 18 before Murray State finally started chipping away and ended up getting the go-ahead bucket with 18 seconds left. That was Murray State's only lead in the game, but unfortunately, that's going to be the result that counts for the Cougars right here. But another improved team here.
Look at this. Both Independents were 3 points away from being undefeated this week. They each lost 3 games there. They're all 1-point losses for these two teams. So
Yeah.
a
Against
tough
D1
week.
competition.
a
Yeah.
tough week for our two little Independents here at the bottom of the standings. Up ahead this week, Chicago State at Southern Illinois and Illinois State. Hartford with a home game against SFBK.
All right. Hartford,
Uh,
one of their few remaining home games.
Let's jump to some of our how about some of our mythical conferences?
Yeah.
Front Range, Colorado and Northern Colorado in a tie at the moment on top of the standings. That should
Yeah.
be changing this week though, because I believe that they will be facing each other on Sunday in a huge first place
Huge.
showdown.
Yeah. Wyoming going to Dayton. Not too many conference.
How
games,
about
but yeah.
Colorado Christian at Denver? Is that a
I
also
don't know.
Front Range?
We've counted that before.
We've also got the Air Force Northern Colorado on Tuesday. Air Force getting their first conference game in here.
Yeah.
If we go Front Range, we've got to go after that. Of course, we've got to go to the Back Range.
Range.
It's
Yes.
our newest conference here. Arizona State still leading the way at 1-0. Few teams have not even gotten any games in yet. I don't know
Yeah.
what we've got coming up this week. Do we have any conference games?
Don't think so. I normally check.
No, I don't think we
no.
have any conference games this week.
Yeah.
We got one other mythical conference. We got the Beehive Conference.
Yeah.
Boo.
We had some excitement in that one.
Let's see if we can get it on the screen. Oh, there it is. Beehive Conference. It's going to be a big Beehive week here. We'll get to it in a minute. But right now, Utah State with the lead at 1-0.
Yeah, probably the best team in the league. And we have confirmed, Chad, while this is a mythical conference, the NCAA did say that the auto bid winner, the first place team, would get an auto bid so long as they won their conference tournament.
Yes, that is confirmed.
Yes, we have. Yeah,
we have the big game of the Beehive series coming up though on Saturday, Utah BYU.
Yeah. That one's going to be a war. BYU, a team I was that's over the radar. We've talked about that already.
Don't forget the winner gets one of these.
the one of these, and
I just like this notion that there are multiple old ochre buckets in existence.
well, we got the big turd too.
We also we do. There we go.
Yeah. This show gets that award tonight. The
This
first
is all.
5 minutes of our show tonight.
We also have Monday night Weber State at Utah State. So another big we got 2 Beehive Conference games this week. Let's go to our
Yeah.
Hoops HD under the radar top 10 lists. We got a ton of honorable mentions this week. We got ties all over the place, here. Let's start with our honorable mentions. Teams that did not make the top 10 include Indiana State, Marshall, UNC Wilmington, Louisiana, Drake, Seattle, North Texas, and Grambling. Yes, Grambling showing up on the
Grambling
top
getting
10
a
list.
vote. Wow.
Getting a vote from somebody. Let's go. 10th place, we added ties. So we ended up with 11 ranked teams this week. Western Kentucky and Towson.
Well,
I am
that
going
was-
to, by executive order, throw Western Kentucky completely
Yes.
off this list right now. So congrats to Towson, you're number 10. Western
Yeah.
Kentucky still down almost 20 points at Louisville in the upset
Yeah.
of the century tonight.
Right. Yeah.
9th
The
place,
Eaters.
UC Irvine
Yeah.
coming in at
The
9th.
Eaters.
Yeah. I love the Eaters.
Northwestern State out of the
All right.
Southland Conference at number 8.
The
How about that for the
Demons.
Demons?
Yeah. Arguably could be higher. Okay.
7th place, UAB.
All right.
Really?
Like the Blazers, talented team.
Yeah, Ona Gale's coming in at number 6, Rick Pitino.
Yeah, they get this one at New Mexico. That is not just under the radar good, that's national good.
We really like the Southern Miss team here. They're coming
Yeah.
in at number 5. And a 2-way tie for 3rd between Sam Houston and Florida
Florida
Atlantic.
Atlantic way up there. All right. Wow.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
Number 2, it's Kent State.
Kent
We
State.
like this team a lot.
A
but I don't think
lot.
there's any surprise. Only one person did not vote our number 1 team as number 1. That was you, Griggs. But here it
Yeah.
is. The
College of
College of
Charleston.
Charleston Cougars, deservedly number 1. Anyone that did not vote the number 1 is also off of the show.
Oh, okay.
Let's go to final thoughts, Dorman. Please, we got to get this show over. with.
Yeah.
I know I throw around great games, excited. This is going to be awesome a lot because I love our game of college basketball so much. But I cannot overrate what Saturday is going to be. The schedule is absolutely loaded, awesome. For 12 hours, put yourself in front of the TV. Get 2 or 3 TVs. Get your iPads out. Get your computers out. You can't have too many screens. I'm not even going to list the games. If you sit down and watch them, you'll have an unbelievable day. The schedule is great, and this will be one of the greatest days you'll see until conference tournament. It's going to be really fun on Saturday.
So then I don't have to go to my wife's office Christmas party on Saturday.
Correct.
Correct.
Tell her.
Thank
you're
you.
sick.
I will let her know.
You're sick.
All
You're
right, I'm
sick.
out. Salika.
We did tease upon it earlier in the past couple conferences, but we still have 2 more tournaments to go. Granted, one of them is not exempt, and that's going to be the Sun Bowl tournament, where we'll be featuring UTEP, New Mexico State, and also Kent State. But the Diamond Head Classic, which the Puppet seems to love for some reason, I mean, we'll probably be featuring
Tis the
Seattle.
season.
Yeah, we'll be seeing what the Red Hawks of Seattle will be able to do. I mean, they're a lot better than Red Hawks than what I saw take on against Cincinnati tonight, but that'll be another story for another day.
Those Red Hawks not as quite as good. Of Miami of Ohio. Griggs, you want to finish us up?
Mother
Yeah,
Miami.
I just wanted to point out, as hard as this is to believe, because it's still early in the season, it's not early in the season. The season is a third over. It goes so fast.
Oh,
That's what I
good.
thought. Yeah.
And even better than the season being a third over, the fact that this
Okay.
podcast is mostly completely over.
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks everybody for joining us. We are definitely going to do much better next time. But on behalf of David Griggs, David Dorman, John Salika, Rocco Miller, who was the only person that did good in this show, check him out at brockdeer.org. I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you again real soon.